Welcome to Spill the Tea about weddings. Hi, I'm Teresa.
Hi, I'm Sheila. Hi, welcome to Spill the Tea podcast. It's all about weddings. I'm Sheila and I own Finest Details. I am a wedding planner, florist, and decor rentals in Goldsboro, North Carolina.
Hi there, I'm Teresa, owner of the English Country Barn, a beautiful wedding venue in Magnolia, North Carolina. Hey, how are you?
I'm doing good, so glad to be back.
Yeah, I know, it's always good to have a catch up, isn't it? Wedding day is so busy, we don't get a chance to talk.
No.
And unless I'm walking the dogs and you phone to vent.
Which I do quite often.
You do, I love a good chat. Occasionally I'll say to Ian, I'm having an early night tonight, and it's because I'm on the phone to you for 2 hours. So, all good stuff. I mean, we need time to do it because wedding day we're focused on our couples, right? We don't get time to catch up, and we have a life outside weddings.
I know, it's sometimes on Monday and Tuesday anyways, right? Maybe Monday.
Monday.
Let's say
Well,
Monday.
no, Tuesday is my official day off of the week. Monday I'm busy resetting the venues, so Tuesday is my actual blocked day. Don't do tours, don't talk to anybody, catch up day, relaxing. Try and get a workout in on a Tuesday too, but it doesn't always work either.
No, it doesn't work out for me either. But Mondays are supposed to be my day off, but I always end up catching up with emails, texting, because I'm thinking already for the next weekend, so I don't really get those off. That's what I do cruises for.
I try and be
That's my
really
day
strict
off.
with myself to make sure that I get some personal time during the week. Riding, obviously, I mean, quite often you'll phone me and say, I'm on a horse.
I know, and I love it when you send a picture.
Yeah.
It's like serenity.
Occasionally in the mornings I'll look at the horse and say, I'm riding you this evening. And then my day goes and I don't. And I say, I'm sorry I didn't, but it is perfect. Take the dogs out, ride the horse. It's my downtime, my thinking time, my planning, coming up with great schemes for Ian to do time. So
I have these huge wicker egg chairs, and sitting in those in the morning, in the spring after pollen season, is it's just thinking time. That's like a calm place. It's very calm and quiet.
my thinking time is on the horse.
Yes, I
It's
see
so
that.
tranquil out on those trails. Anyway, enough about us. What are we talking about today?
Well, we have a subject that we have to gently not get too taboo.
You mean I can't have opinions today?
We are going to talk about children at weddings.
Or not at weddings?
Or not at weddings. And we are going to give some pros and cons, and I'm going to release so other brides know, because I always hear, what is everybody else doing? So I'm going to give some hints on my end on what I see people doing.
And I'm just going to give opinions.
We have both great advice, because we have two different things, like you on another podcast talked about rocks in your water fountain, and I'm sitting over going, oh my God. Yeah. So we have different experiences.
We do.
So let's talk about first what brides are doing. And I always tell them it's a personal preference, totally personal preference. I have them say, well, if I don't want kids to my wedding, but I have kids in my wedding, is that okay? Yes. The answer is yes. You can, if you've got a ring barrier or flower girls or a mini bride, that is completely your choice. And because there is a child in the wedding does not mean you have to invite children to the wedding. My advice is, if you are having children in the wedding, they should absolutely be at the dinner. I feel like that's appropriate. If they are young children, I recommend they sit with their parents, and parents should supervise. And if they're very young age, maybe have arrangements for pickup after dinner, because that's when it gets out of hand, is dancing time. Or offer, if they're very young and it's very important for you to have them in your wedding, I suggest that you have on-site nannies that can take care of those children to give the parents that break, since they've paid for the dress and paid for everything. So That is one. Another one we're going to talk about is having children as guests. I always say, again, that's up to each individual couple, but the one thing that I always say, and I hope this doesn't come across as too harsh, is you have to realize that for every child, you're not paying for a child plate. You are still having 8 people sit at a table, so if you have 4 kids at that table, it's still costing you the same per person price to decorate that table, florals, food, dinner. So it comes down to, as recommendation for me, is a budget. Like if you have the budget, because I've seen people have 18, 20 children at their wedding.
I have too. I feel that it needs tough love.
It
honestly.
does.
And I get a lot of our couples nowadays have children of their own, and I understand that, and I totally agree. Flower girls and page boys make gorgeous photos.
They do.
They do.
Adorable.
But a little bit like how I feel about animals at weddings, have them for the photos and then send them home. I really do believe that. And I feel...
But I think it's fantastic to have on-site nanny.
Yes.
But you have to realize, if you've got 10, 12, 18, 20 kids, that is an expense. And if you're going to invite them,
expense, and I
then
think
you should pay for the nanny service.
Yeah, absolutely. But I also feel that something to bear in mind is there are a lot of little children who are a little shy, not used to daycare, not used to meeting strange people. And if you suddenly dump them with a nanny they've never met before, they're going to be in pieces. So my daughter has twin boys, they're 2.5 now, and when her best friend got married, she was the maid of honor, matron of honor, and so she wanted me to help look after the boys, who at that point were less than a year old. The truth is, they wanted mama. They needed nursing, they needed taking care of, they got overstimulated, they got overtired. I took them back to the house, they weren't going to settle, they needed mama. And no matter how hard you try, children of that age, if they are very used to being with one person, are going to want that one person. Yeah. So it wasn't a particularly fun experience for any of us. The boys were overstimulated, I was stressed. Daughter was cross because she wanted to be a good support system to her best friend and kept being dragged away. So that was complicated. And I just think that I love the idea of having babysitters on site, but
not all venues have a space either.
But even if they don't, I just feel that it's very tricky to expect children to gravitate. Obviously, if you've got raucous 5 and 6 year old boys who are going to run and be confident, then that's a different matter. But if you've got shy children who are not used to that experience, it's a waste of money, and you may as well have sent them home.
Right.
Yes, I did have rocks in my fountain. I am a little cross about it. It takes hours to fish them all back out again, and there's a great big sign: please do not allow your children to throw rocks into the fountain. There are probably 100 rocks in the fountain, and it happens on a regular basis, and I roll my eyes, because not only does it take my time to clear it out, but it potentially can damage the fountain, which I might not know about until I test it again for the following week. And then I'm going to go to the couple and say, one of your guests allowed their children to throw rocks in my fountain, it's now broken, you're responsible. And that causes bad feeling, which we don't want. So there are nuances. I mean, from my perspective as a venue, love it if it rains, because the children are forced to stay inside and not throw rocks in the fountain.
No.
And I know that from a planner's perspective that you probably think, oh, please don't let it rain, because
I'm like, let them be outside, get all that energy out, they can scream.
But they're a nightmare. Great. I mean, so a lot of venues are rural or in the city. I mean, if they're in the city, I would imagine it's even worse. But at our venue, we have a river, we have a pond, we have a fountain, we have tractors, we have
animals,
we have horses, we have cats with claws. Those are all reasons why children don't need to be left to roam. I mean, last year, I went out to the venue in the evening. I'd actually gone out to feed the horses, and there was this little tot who was probably 2, wandering around unattended, and there was a parent, a couple parents sitting there with another toddler, and I said, oh, excuse me, is she yours? And they said, no, she's been out here by herself for the last 30 minutes and we don't know who she belongs to. Nobody had thought to go and find out who her parents were. And I've got too many potential dangers for a child of that age to be running around unattended. And that's my biggest frustration with having children at weddings, is people want to visit and then forget that they've got children. They want to drink and then forget that they've got children.
100% agree that parents should be fully liable for their children if they're bringing them to an event. And what might be suitable and totally fine at home to run, scream, jump on furniture is not okay at a wedding or event, because, you know, something could get damaged, they could fall and get hurt, the noise could be taken away from photography or what's going on with the couple.
Well, the other thing is, I mean, we find it often, the worst age is little boys between the ages of 5 and 9. They are the worst. I love my grandsons. Little boys are wild. Little boys between the ages of 5 and 9 are bored to tears, and I found them on the tractors. We take all the keys out of the tractors, but notwithstanding, they're still climbing up, they're still sitting on buckets, and they are potentially dangerous. Right. And you say, where's mummy? Oh, she told us to go play. Well, that's not okay. And the thing is, we all know that whilst we have signs everywhere that say not responsible for accidents, we have contracts in place that say, please remind your guests that they're responsible for their children. We put safety, like taking the keys out of tractors. I know if something happened, the parents are going to come to me and blame me. I know that because that's human nature. So, tough love, honest opinion, leave the kids at home.
Well, I can tell you some of the experiences I've had that sound funny, but they were not funny at the moment, is the couple, during their toast, I looked over at the wedding cake, and there was 3 little boys, 4 fingers into the wedding cake. And I mean, I couldn't run across the room fast enough. And then everybody's looking at me because I'm like, oh my God, I have no idea where their parents are, which one. And it's just like claws at the bottom of the wedding cake. I'll say more often than not, the kids take over the first dance, just jump out in the middle of the floor. And, you know, in my mind, I'm thinking, you know, if I was the parent, I would be like aghast that my kid was out there on the first dance. And then during the evening in the dancing, that's when it just gets wild. You know, they're grabbing the LED wand, smacking everything, glasses falling on the floor.
They're overstimulated. They need to go home. Frankly,
but we'll talk about positive things. I think that there's nothing cuter than a mini bride and groom, or the ring bearer and the flower girl. I mean, I do love all those moments, but I feel like as a couple, you need to kind of analyze your friends and like supervision. If they are, you know, very disciplined and you know the children very well and they're not kind of that rambunctious, then by all means, but it still needs to be politely said, the child needs to sit with the parent. So like us as a planner or the photographer, if we see that child come from them, we know, okay, let's go get those parents. When they're just running all around the room, or a kid's table is a planner's nightmare. Because when I see a kid's table with 14 kids, I have no idea where their parents are. And, you know, if there's no adults visiting the table, and, you know, in today's world, you don't discipline somebody's children, and that's not, you know, in my job description. I'm trying to think of safety for them, safety for the venue, safety.
And the thing is, we all know that kids feed off each other. So if there's a kids' table of 14 kids and one acts the fool, the others are going to egg them on, and then they all get silly, or they fall out, and then somebody smacks somebody, and then it's all gone wrong, and somebody steals somebody's crayons. It's just carnage.
But kids' tables were really popular, like 217 till about maybe 23. And now I'm like, yeah, no. Matter of fact, I used to have a kids' table sign. I got rid of it. I was like, yep, no more promotion. Because I do think that they need to sit with the parent.
Yeah,
and, you know, it's a different story. If your age group is 12 to 17, then by all means, have a not kids table, maybe a teens table. I don't think they necessarily need to be supervised by parents, but there has been situations with some 16, 17-year-olds. If alcohol is being served, I would prefer they sit with the parent, because some 17-year-olds look like they could be 21.
Well, and the truth is,
it's a
we all think when we're
situation.
16 that we know everything, don't we? So, I mean, if we
We've
can
all
sneak,
been
we've
through
all done it.
something,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
We've learned a lesson
Yeah,
somewhere.
exactly. So they're going to do that for sure. I think the honest truth is that children of all ages, between the ages of 1 and 17, get bored at a wedding. That's the truth. And they don't need to be there. And I promise you, a colouring book and some crayons is not going to keep them occupied for more than 5 minutes. And we are not babysitters for them. And it is not a play area outside. And I feel really strongly, most parents these days are particularly protective of allowing their kids to play out in their neighbourhood. You know, when we were young, we would all just go out until dark and be
I grew up on a bike 5 blocks away.
Nowadays, they don't do that.
Right.
So if they won't do that at home, what I never understand is why they think it's appropriate to do it at a wedding, because you're full of 120 strangers. You don't know what's going on. You don't know the environment. You don't know where they might. I mean, I'm on 320 acres. Can you imagine if a child went missing on that?
Oh, I know.
How
it'd
you
be
would find
impossible.
somebody? And I think if you won't let your kids do that at home, why do you think it's okay to do
Right.
it there? But I think ultimately, yes, they do look cute in photos. They do. I mean, some of my favourite photographs are the little kids with their
They're adorable.
adorable, but then they need to go home. It's that simple.
Well, I feel
but I
like
also feel really strongly that, like you said, if you allow a page boy and a flower girl in your wedding, you can still tell everybody else that it's a child-free wedding.
Oh,
it's
definitely.
your wedding. It's entirely up
Right.
to you who you want to invite.
You do not have to. And I've had couples say, "Well, if we have our children, do we need to open it up?" And I'm like, "No,
No, exactly.
That's totally up to you. This is your wedding. You're paying per person. This is totally fine. Like, there should be no guilt in."
And if people
in
say, well, I
saying-
can't come because you won't let my kids come, well, don't come then. That's
Yeah,
simple. And if parents have any sense, have a night off. Leave your kids at home with a babysitter and let them go to bed. And go out and enjoy yourself and have a drink and be a couple like you used
Right.
to do before kids came along. There are lots of reasons not to have them.
Right.
I'm not thinking of many too.
But if you want to have them, here's the positive. If you're going to invite children, I feel like you need to set aside the funds and hire a nanny service.
Yes.
Because your planner, your mom, your wedding party, like my job is so detailed, and I'm thinking about all of the vendors there to make sure everything is done on time. I'm not looking on the second floor to see if the child's got his head stuck in spindles, right? So, and it's not your mom or your wedding party's job. And if the parents, if you know them really well and you say, okay, they're going to watch their child, great. But otherwise, I feel firmly, if you're going to invite children, you need to budget for a nanny service. If they're in your wedding party, they should have dinner with their parents that paid for their dresses. But after that, I feel like you should have nanny service. And if that, if not within budget or you feel like that's too restrictive, then I would recommend definitely not having children guests to the wedding. I will never forget, and I have it, and whenever, because I love the wedding, it was so beautiful, I go through and I'm looking at the video going, oh, that was such a beautiful day. And they're all on the dance floor, and all I can see is the 4-year-olds jumping up and down like this, covering the videographer.
Oh.
And so the whole dance, and then even raising it up, trying to get down, and the kids were still jumping. And I thought, as much money as you're paying for these quality vendors, that there's only so much they can do. Because, us as vendors, we're not in the disciplining. That's not we're not going to risk our reputation or liability for disciplining your guest. My job is to make sure everybody's safe, and I want them to have a good time, but there's limitations on that. And if I'm running around trying to figure out whose parent this is because I feel like something is unsafe, then I'm not having the attention on the couple or the vendors to make sure that everything is going smoothly.
Exactly.
So it kind of circles around. It's not that I don't love kids. I love kids and I love them in the wedding, but I feel like make plans.
Well,
If you're
and
going
I
to invite
think
them, 100%, I feel like it is your responsibility.
Yeah,
for
I
having
agree. But I also think down to the details as well. If you know that children are coming to your wedding, then you need to make provisions for them, and that doesn't just mean a colouring book.
Yeah.
But for example, last weekend, I had a phone call from the planner as dinner was about to be served. Teresa, do you have a high chair?
Oh, yeah.
And I thought, why has that not been discussed up until now? And suddenly you're wanting me to be your problem solver because somebody has come with a 2-year-old, nobody has discussed it, and suddenly this child needs to sit somewhere to eat. And I think, so fortunately, I have twin grandsons, so yes, I do have 2 high chairs, but they're not my responsibility to be somebody's problem solver on wedding day. It's a communication thing, you know, I'm always banging on about that and saying communicate. But they got the RSVPs, the planner has the conversations, and the bride has never mentioned there's a 2-year-old that needs help to be eating, and suddenly it's my problem. And I don't normally lend my high chairs out to the venue because that's a whole nother liability, because if a child falls out of my high chair, I'm responsible because I've provided it. It's the same as a ladder.
Wow.
And I feel, so I help them out, but I then want the planner to understand, actually, just so you know, if there's a problem, it's not on me.
Yeah.
Because nobody had communicated. And I just think that if you know you're inviting 1, 5, 15 children to your wedding, make the appropriate provisions. So that
And you're right,
easy.
coloring books used to suffice, but not in today's world. They're probably happier with an iPad.
Probably. And actually, yes, if all parents just said to their kid, I promise you, you can use my phone all evening if you just sit there quietly, they'd probably be absolutely fine.
Right.
But honestly, kids are so bored at weddings. When my older daughter got married last September in England, so we were all flying over there for her wedding, and my younger daughter was her bridesmaid, and she was originally going to take the boys over and then decided it was going to be hell on earth to have them on a plane, to go over there, to do the whole wedding. We'd hired a nanny, but then she got pregnant, so that was all another story. And in the end, my daughter just said, you know what, I'm leaving them at home. She did leave them with her husband.
Right.
I'm not saying that she left them unattended, but she decided it was going to be much easier to go. And yeah, we missed having them there, but honestly, we all had a far better time.
See, I
and we FaceTimed them and sort of include them in a few things. Her husband was fine being at home, not having to go to a wedding, because I mean, honestly, a lot of people think they're boring. And she was able to have a drink, have a dance party, enjoy herself, and wake up the next morning at her leisure without thinking, oh, I've got to get up at 5 because the boys will be awake.
Right.
So there are so many pluses about, I'm trying to think of some really positive things to spin this on why you should.
Well, there it
but I
is,
mean, if
because-
people say to me they're having a child-free wedding as a venue owner, I always go, yay, because it's easier.
Well, and I tell them the same thing. I give them the pluses and the minuses and let them decide. But I also, you know, usually when I get to the point of stressing that nanny service should be paid for by the couple, they're like, oh, okay, get it. Because you don't want to you spend so much time and energy and money and resources and planning on this being your magical day. And, you know, children are very unpredictable. But you and I also, to bring pets in this, we're both huge animal lovers, and we feel the same way about pets.
Yes.
Like if you're going to bring a pet, that they need to be supervised. There is pet nanny services, and highly recommend same thing.
And then
it's
they
like
need to
have
go.
somebody watch the pet, stay with the pet. We have another great podcast that you and Teresa Would Be Captured did, that discussing the photography, videography end, and also enjoyment of the pet being on the property. So it's not biased just against children, it's also about pets.
But
And
it's
we
not-
love them
it's
both.
not- yeah, we do. I mean, I adore my grandsons, but I mean, I wouldn't recommend that they went to a wedding, honestly. I mean, one of them is a rule follower, the other one is a free spirit, and you say to him, don't throw rocks in the fountain, what will Pop say? And he immediately says, Pops will say no, and then throw a rock in the fountain.
yeah.
Because that's just children. And I think that couples, if they're honest with themselves and realistic, know that they're not going to just sit there and look sweet for 6 hours. And the
Right.
other thing is, I mean, let's talk about flower girls. You have a beautiful little flower girl who's 3 years of age. You don't want her there at 9 o'clock in the morning to get ready.
Right.
She is going to
right.
be exhausted and overwrought and probably got her dress dirty by the time she's ready to go down the aisle. And those are things that you need to, so, and that's always really hard, isn't it? If you've got a maid of honor or a bridesmaid whose daughter is then a flower girl.
Right.
Because she wants to
she
be
wants to
there,
stay for the whole thing.
But the little girl doesn't need to be there. And I think that it's about being realistic about their attention span, isn't it? You know, the little girl for a 3-year-old could probably show up an hour before, and I know the photographers will kill me because then they won't get photos either, but turn up an hour before the ceremony, already in her dress. I know years and years ago, my 3 kids were in a very good friends of mine wedding, and so my son was 2. Fortunately, he fell asleep on the way over, so we tried to sneak his bow tie on while he was asleep because he wasn't having it. But he woke up immediately. And so my daughter was 4 and fell into a bed of nettles after the ceremony. So then every photograph is her crying because obviously the nettles hurt. And actually,
It's unpredictable.
it is. Well, I was
Pets or children.
I was a
yes.
bridesmaid when I was 3.
Oh.
And I was never asked to be a bridesmaid again. Do you want to know why?
Oh no, I'm scared.
I cried the whole time
Oh.
because my aunt, who I adored, was also a bridesmaid, and they wouldn't let me hold her hand. Back in the day, it was a thing.
It's like,
and
oh.
I just wanted to hold her hand. I was a shy little girl. I didn't have many opinions back then. And I just wanted to hold her hand, and they said no. Every photograph was me with tear-streaked face, pouting because I had a really good pout. And my mother would have told you if you knew her today, I could have killed her because I ruined this whole wedding. I squawked, I cried, I ruined the photos. It was a disaster. And when Jessica was 4 and she was a bridesmaid, she fell in a bed of nettles. So then she cried and squawked and was distraught. And we just took them home so we couldn't celebrate because after the wedding, after the ceremony, when they were all fed up, took them home.
Well, just so you know, if you're listening to us, we do love kids and dogs.
We do, but they're
We
in their place.
But we're just giving you your options and letting you know some things that we suggest as venue owners.
I mean, it's your wedding. Think about it and do exactly what you want. Completely ignore us if you want to, but these are based on true experience.
And also ask your photographer, videographer for their opinion if you need a backup plan.
Yeah, but
Okay,
or just have
so-
them for cute photos, and then
They're adorable,
and then have a nanny.
it's fun. It's just we have to think long term because ideally a wedding day is a 12, 14-hour day, and the wedding party's arriving at 7, 8 in the morning and leaving at 10:30, 11. So it's a long day, and so shorten it, and it'll be more fun for all of you.
exactly. That's a good place to stop, I
Yeah,
think.
there we go. All right, well, thank you so much for listening today. We hope you're enjoying the podcast. We would love your feedback in the comments and give us suggestions on things you would like for us to talk about. And until then, please like, follow, share, and subscribe. We are on Podbean, Spotify, and YouTube.
See you next time.
Bye.